Hello friends and welcome to my YouTube channel Sync Ventures. Let's talk Microsoft 365. Today I am going to show how to call Microsoft Graph from Xamarin Mobile App. Xamarin is a framework to create mobile app which can work on Android, iOS and also on Windows Universal Platform. My focus in this video is on Android, but it remains fairly same for iOS as well. Before I proceed further, I would um, uh, I would request you to subscribe to my channel Sync Ventures. Also connect with me on Twitter, LinkedIn, and also follow my blog syncventures.com. Um, the app I have created is a very simple one, which reads users' basic information and shows calendar entries for the current user logged in. You can also create an event from the app. In this, we will be using Microsoft Graph to get details of the user. I have also done similar videos in which I have shown how to call Microsoft Graph from single page application using JavaScript and also from SPFX, that is SharePoint Development Framework. So you can consider this as a next video of that where I will be calling Microsoft Graph from a Xamarin Mobile App. So let's get started first with the demo, and then I will talk about prerequisites and I will show you the code structure and give you a code overview. The code will be available in GitHub profile of mine, and I'll be sharing a link to it in my description of the video also. So let's look for the demo now. So I have my Visual Studio and I'm using an Android emulator to show you in this. So you can see the app has already been loaded, and if I click on here and say calendar, it will show me the calendar entries of my account. And then if I go to new event, it will show me a page where I can add a, let's say, test 2 and the email address. Maybe I can write like this. And then I can select a date saying, okay, I want the date to be 27. Say okay. And then I can create it. So now the event will be created. And you can see here the code is getting called in the background. So it is running in the debug mode and it gives a message success event created. So now when I go back to my calendar, I should see test 2 also here, right? Because that's the calendar entry for me also that I have a scheduled meeting. So as you can see, the app is pretty simple. If you go to the home page, you will see welcome Kislesina graph, and so you can add more information here if you want, and calendar new event. Similarly, other details which we want to get from Microsoft Graph, like email messages or Teams information, or those can be added in a mobile app. So idea is to create a mobile app in which we can get different data from for different services from Microsoft 365. As you know, the same can be done for other line of business applications if the APIs have been shared with, right? So that is what we can do. So now the demo is done. So let's look into the prerequisites. So if you want to utilize this code, or you want to have a go on developing a Xamarin mobile app in which you want to call Microsoft Graph, there are certain prerequisites you need to have. Of course, you need to use Windows 10, and developer mode should be turned on the Windows 10. If you're using Mac, there might be other steps which I'm not covering in this because I don't use Mac, so it will be difficult for me to cover. What you need is also Visual Studio 2019. Either you can Enterprise or a Community Edition. In this case, I'm using Community Edition because this is like a demo, right? So I don't need to use my Enterprise account. And make sure that you install Xamarin Forms as an option when installing Visual Studio. If you already have Visual Studio installed and you want to use Xamarin, then you can use the add more features in your Visual Studio, and then it will be done. Of course, you need an Office 365 developer account with access to Azure portal, which will be needed for creating app registration, which I will show you later also. And if you don't have Office 365 developer account, you can get it for free if you don't have it now. So, and I have covered in my previous videos how you can get the Office 365 developer account and set it up. So I'm not going to discuss it in this, but I'll be posting some links in the description of the video where you can understand if you are just starting with the development. So let's dive into the code now. So I will again go to the Visual Studio. Um, so the first step is to create a new project. And if you have installed mobile app Xamarin Forms, you see a new option like this, in which you can say, select this mobile app Xamarin.Forms. Next, give the app name, the appropriate name in for this. And then it will ask you whether you want to develop for Android, iOS, or Windows Universal Platform. So if you're developing only for Android, you can just unselect iOS, or if you want to develop it for both, you can do that also. And remember to select the blank app. So because we will be using the blank app and we will be building the UI as we need. And if you want the Windows Universal Platform also, you can select it. I had not selected it when I created it, so that's why you will not be able to see that in the demo. But you can of course do it, and it will work the same way, right? So I'm not going to go through all the steps because I have already created the app and I have also the code. Once you have done it, a structure will be created like this. And as I said, the Universal Windows Platform was not selected, so we have um, two solutions created here, projects basically, not solutions. Maybe it's difficult for you to show, so I can use a magnifier to show you. So you can see we have three. So my solution name is MSGraphXamarin, and we have MSGraphXamarin as the project, and two other projects, Xamarin.Android and Xamarin.iOS. So if you have a third one like UWP, you will have also here, right? So let's look into the code structure a bit now. Um, so here in the Xamarin, this one, we first need to include some packages. The packages will be Microsoft Graph, Microsoft.Identity.Client, and TimeZoneConverter, basically to get the user's current time zone converted so that we can, use it for showing the correct information. And Microsoft Graph to call Microsoft Graph, as we say, and Identity.Client to take a Azure AD authentication. So those are the three packages which we need and should be installed here. You can use the package manage console also to install it. Um, and I'll be posting some commands in the description of the video, which you can have a look later, right? Maybe the package names are not very clear to you, so I will make it, I'll use the magnifier again. So you can see I have three packages included here. So once that is done, this step is covered. So, and we have models here, three models we have created, that is nav, menu item, OAuth settings. But let's start with the authentication part, right? Um, so let's go to the file OAuth settings.s, and here you will, so you should create a folder called model, and then create a class called OAuth settings. And then in that, we can use this code to have the application ID. And the application ID will be created by using the Azure portal for app registrations and the scope. So here we are saying the user, we will read the user information, mailbox settings, and calendars. And we will choose a path like this, redirect URI, which will be used to authenticate the application which we are creating, right? So our app will use this URL to make authentication to Microsoft Graph. And so to make it work, we need an app registration. So I have already done app registration. Otherwise, what you can do is you go to home of your Microsoft Azure portal from portal.azure.com, and then do app registration. And there's a new registration, select this option accounts in any organization. So I will make it a bit bigger for you so that you can see it. So you should have a name here selected. So in this case, I have selected MS Graph Xamarin. Select this, and then not web, but you should select public native active mobile. And this is the path where you need to put the path which I showed in the Visual Studio. So this is the path, right? Once that is done, you will be able to um, see it under app registrations like this one. And you will have this client ID created here, right? And if you go to API permissions, you need certain API permissions, and you might have to grant admin consent for CGI or the company name of yours, right? So, so that is what we need. Otherwise, it will not work. If you don't give consent, it might not work. I had this issue actually, and so once this step is done, we are ready to use this, in our Visual Studio here, right? So, so that's the part of auth settings. Then, what we will do is we will go to the main app XML. So every mobile app has the main file called app.xaml, and in the CS file, we will have the code written for the user to be logged in, and also for having the graph client. So you can see we have created some properties here, and we have graph service client, public application, and this is used for authenticating to iOS, which I have not covered in this tutorial actually. And you can see we are reading the auth settings and using space as a splitter here, right? And then we initialize the component, basically the main constructor of the app, right? And we say that please call this public application client application builder. And then we have different properties created: is signed in, signed out, is the user signed out, user email address, and all those, user photo, right? So that is what we need. The sign in. So first it will it will check whether the silent sign in is there or not. So basically, if the user is already logged in, so it will try to acquire the token, and if it is done, it's good. And the sign out, of course, will clear all the details, and this is the part where we get the user information. Like we are calling graph client here, and we are getting display name, mailbox settings, and the principal name of the user, right? So that is how we call in the C# also. And here we are, storing the values from the what we are getting. So user photo, username, user email, and we are also using the user time zone captured here, right? If there is a problem capturing user time zone, it takes the local time zone by default. Um, the get user photo, by default, if there is no profile pic, it will use a file, it will use an image which is there in the solution already. You can replace it with your image or anything, but remember to change the file name here if you're using the another image. So this is the most important method here, where we will be, initializing the graph client. You can see here, and we get the current account, and if the current account is greater than 0, then we delegate the authentication provider, and then we get the scope and the access token, and then we are done with the main part of initializing the graph client. What else we have to do also is we have to make sure that in the Android manifest.xml, I will again use the magnifier for you to show the structure a bit. So if you go inside MSGraphXamarin.Android, that is the Android project. You will, under the properties, you will see Android manifest.xml. In that, we have to write this one, ms auth Android host, and the URL, you remember, which we put in the app registration. So that is also used here to make to call for authentication, and we are using the ms auth as the provider here, right? So I will get rid of the magnifier. So once that is done, and in the main activity.cs file also, we need to write certain code so that we are, um, basically here on activity result. So this is a method which we will add here to pass the authentication, so that the code can authenticate with the Azure AD, and we can get the MSGraph working. So when all this part is done, what we are left now is with the UI parts. So I will again use the magnifier to show a bit of structure. So we have three model classes. So graph date time zone converter, basically a a class which will convert the time zone of the user to the required one. And navigation menu item. So you saw in the demo that we have a navigation in which we display the home, calendar, and the new event. So that will be created from there. And auth settings you have already seen, which is used to do all the authentication things, right? And the app.xml is used as the main page, where we have written all the logic to initialize the graph client, get the user signed in, and all those kind of things, right? And then we have pages created. Basically, we will create 4 pages here. That is calendar page, main page, menu page, new event page. So these pages are content pages. So you can right click on the project and then say and select content page, and then you will be. So I can show you that a bit. So I will close the magnifier now, and you will see here MSGraphXamarin, add new item. Actually, I'm still running the app, so it's a bit slow, but you should select the content page and name your page accordingly. Okay, so that's important. So once you have added all these pages, so we will take it one by one, and I will explain you what needs to be done. So we have the welcome page. So here you can see the label, which you saw also, right? Graph Xamarin Total tutorial app, which you can change whatever you need to, and some sign in information, when the user is sign in, what to show and what not to show. So that is, so basically you can imagine this is like a UI part, and then in the back you write the code in the .cs. So not much in this, because this is just slicing the welcome page, and we use a master detail page, to be true here. That's it, nothing more than that. Then we have the main page XML, and here we are just showing the menu, nothing more than that, right? So if you go to main page.xml, so we are initializing the component, and we will add the welcome page here, and then we have, depending on the selection, what page needs to be called, right? So if the ID is selected as welcome page, calendar page, and the new event page, right? So we have 3 menu options, and that is how it calls. And this is connected to our class called nav menu item, where we have created 3 enums: welcome, calendar, and new event. So that is how, and we have getter and setter, so that we can get the values, right? So that is how we do it. Then we have menu page.xml, and in this one, if the user is signed out, it shows different information. And if it is signed in, it will show username, user email, and also option to sign out, and then the list view. And the list we have already created with this main page.xml, where we will display the all the menu items dynamically here, right? Then we have the calendar page. So in the calendar page, so the UI should show us, we are using the converter here for the local time zone. So we use a calendar list, basically list view, right? And then we display the subject, email address, and then we say what information needs to be, and data converter. So whatever time we are getting, we will convert it to the time zone, So that is how we will do. And if you look into the calendar page.xml, does the logic here. So I have, and I took this from a tutorial from Microsoft, and they were missing this particular method. And I had reported it to GitHub in their GitHub, and they have also accepted the solution by me. So basically, we should have this method created, which will convert the time zone actually. And here you will see the logic on appearing, basically what happens when this page appears. So we get the start of the week, end of the week, right? Get started in the user's time zone. So we are trying to get the start and end of so the meeting can be in a different time zone, but we are trying to convert it to the end users, right? So that's what we are doing. We are also passing some query, that start date time and end date time. So that is what we are also doing. And then we are making a call to the graph client. And this is the most important part to understand how to call the graph. So we var events await app.graphclient.me.calendar.view request query options, and we are passing a header. We are saying that please use Outlook time zone of the user time zone display name. And then we are saying we just want to select subject, organizer, start, end. And we want to order them by start date time, and we want to get only top 50 and asynchronous method. Once that is there, as I showed you, we already have a list in the XML here, created calendar list here, and we bind the data here, calendar list dot item source dot events dot current page dot list. Okay, so that is how. So we are getting the JSON here in the events, right? And we are using that information just to add it to the, and that is how the data is getting binded to the UI. Similarly, what we can do is we can go to the new event page, and here what we are trying to do is we are trying to ask the user to input the information. So the UI is a bit different. So we have the subject, attendees, and you can have multiple email address. So, and the grid, with the column definition, start time, end time, and all those, and the text, right? And so all those layout things. So you can just copy it if you want it, and make changes accordingly, right? In the logic, also, you will see here we have subject text box. So getter and setters for attendees text box, right? Start date picker, start time, end date picker. So all this information, date time offsets to combine the date time, so all this. And if we go to, and here we are just initializing the new event page, but that is the constructor. And this is the main method where we will use the create event. So this is what you need to understand. So we are saying time zone string. So we are getting the current time zone from the Xamarin Forms, user time zone display name, and we are initializing the new object. We are creating object to be passed, and we are creating new event, subject, end date, all those things, start date, end date. And we are saying that the body should not be empty, so it should be there something. And then we are iterating through the email addresses. So as we have multiple email addresses, so we are using a for each for that one. And then we just use me.events.request.add sync new event. So this is the object we created, and we just pass it. and we display alert, as you saw also in the demo, event created. So I think I think this is a brief summary, I would say, of the code, and the code will be available on the GitHub. You can download it from there and also try to use it. If you have any more questions, you can of course contact me on Twitter, LinkedIn, or post a message on the YouTube. Please subscribe to my channel, as I said before, and and if you have further questions, just connect with me whenever you want it. So it's not a problem, and I will be happy to help you guys also. So yeah, um, think I have covered everything. So yeah, so thank you. Thanks for today.